Hello silver friends, this is Joli from Quicksilver Hair. Hi, hello, how are you? I just wanted to come on and give you an update and let you know what's been going on, let you know how I am. Many of you have reached out to me via email and private message asking if everything's okay, and I felt like it was time for me to hop on and give you guys an update. In my last video, which was over a month ago, I mentioned that life had gotten a little bit extra. Little did I know it was going to get a little bit more extra. So today we're going to talk about all that. It is pretty interesting to me that it's been over a month since I've done a video, because since I started the company in 2017, I have routinely rolled out either a blog or a video or something for content for you guys. And it's just felt really weird for Quicksilver Hair to be kind of taking a back seat for a little while. And it's fine. That's just the season of life that I'm in right now. It is a season of life, 2024, that I will look back on probably as a very challenging time. Things have been very strange. The surgery itself was one thing, and all the circumstances around having this surgery and everything, they were very odd and challenging from the get-go. And now I am experiencing a shift with physical therapy. So let's get into that. So when I came out of the sling, I kind of thought, okay, here we go. Let's start using my arm. Let's get my range of motion back and let's get going. And it took an interesting turn with physical therapy. I kind of hit a plateau. And as I started investigating what was going on and trying to figure out why I wasn't progressing the way I imagined I would be, it became very clear to me that something was off. And from my last appointment with my physical therapist, it became very clear to me that I needed to find a different physical therapist. So I really cannot go into full detail about all of this. All I can say is that during physical therapy with my previous physical therapist, I was not doing any exercises in the office. I was only doing them via an app at home. So nobody was watching me. Nobody was monitoring how I was doing. He never asked how the exercises were going, and he never measured any level of progress. So in physical therapy, it's very typical for them to take measurements when you start physical therapy, and then to progressively take measurements as you go week by week through physical therapy to see how well things are going, how much strength you're getting back, how much mobility you're getting back, and so forth. That wasn't happening. And an incident occurred between me and the physical therapist that really shocked and surprised me. It was something that I had no idea was coming, but it basically sealed the deal. It made me realize that this person and I were not compatible, and that I needed to finish out my physical therapy with someone I felt comfortable with and that I could trust. So I fired my physical therapist and found a new physical therapist who I started working with yesterday, and she has so far been really great. I have seen her twice now. The first time was for an evaluation, and then the next day I went to the surgeon's office, and the PA and the new physical therapist confirmed that I was not progressing like I should be. They kind of expect you to hit some milestones, and I wasn't hitting those milestones, and we're not really sure exactly why. It could have been the physical therapist, it could be me, I'm not 100% sure. But it felt better to me to be in her office. I felt a lot better. I felt a lot more comfortable. I felt like I was in a space where I was 100% supported, and that felt really good. So I'm really glad that I found a physical therapist. And the really good thing is she's very close to me. And the other physical therapist, it was literally an entire afternoon. I'd have to drive across town, do the appointment, drive back across town. And usually it was Friday afternoon in Friday afternoon traffic. So it was just, this chunk of time that was being carved out mostly in my car. So I was really glad to find somebody that's really close by, and I can, you know, run over there, get my physical therapy, and be able to come back and maybe get my life back into some sort of schedule so I can get back to normal as far as work is concerned. So moving on to the next thing. So about 2 weeks after surgery, I got a letter in the mail from the state of New Mexico, and it was a jury summons. So I called and let them know that I was not going to be able to serve because at that time I couldn't even drive yet, and it was going to be a long recovery. So they postponed it, they agreed to postpone it, and then they rescheduled me for end of August into September. So, you know, that was a great relief to be out of that. I don't know about you guys, but jury duty is not my cup of tea. I don't really prefer to do jury duty. It's just not something that I just don't like it. Anyway, so I'm hoping that even if I get called at the end of August, that I won't have to serve. It's just not something I really want to do. But anyway, a few weeks later, I get another letter from the state of New Mexico, and I'm like, I wonder if this has to do with jury duty because maybe something changed or whatever. So I opened the envelope at the mailbox. I don't typically open the mail at the mailbox because it's down from the house, and I usually bring the mail home and come in. But I was curious, like, what is this? Why am I getting another letter from the state of New Mexico? Turns out it was a tax audit. And when I opened this letter, I fully understood why people have heart attacks due to tax stress, because I opened this envelope, I started reading this letter, and I mean, everything in me just hit the deck, you know. It's like, what? So they audited me from 2017 to 2021. They wanted all of my records for my business in sales. So they wanted all my sales records, and they wanted all of my 1099s. I have quite a few 1099s because that's how, when you're doing affiliate marketing, you get paid. It took me 3 weeks to get all the data put together for them. One of the things that they wanted was all of my sales records, and they needed to see where all of the orders that I had processed had been shipped. So I had to find a way to pull all this information off of my website. It turned out to be the hardest thing about the process was getting that information off of my website. So it took me about 3 weeks to put all this together. And 5 years worth of taxes, it's a lot. So when I sent the emails to the auditor with all of the information that she had requested, at the end of my last email said, I know this is a lot of information. I know it's going to take some time to process it, but could you give me an idea of how long this will take so that I know if I do owe this amount of money, which was a lot of money, I would be able to either start squirreling it away, get ready to pay it, you know, whatever. How was I going to deal with the situation? So much to my surprise, 2 hours later, I get an email from her that says, your audit case is closed. And I was like, just like that, it's closed? I actually emailed her back and I said, so it's done, over, I don't owe you anything, everything's fine. And she emailed back and she said, everything's fine. Just make sure you continue to report properly on your out-of-state sales. So I contacted a friend of mine who is an accountant in the state of New Mexico. She doesn't really deal with businesses like mine, but she was able to help me navigate the New Mexico website so that I fully understood what I was supposed to be reporting and where I was supposed to be reporting it. It's not very intuitive, so I had missed a step. Regardless, I did not owe anything back to them, so that was a huge relief. So I got out of that situation, and then the next thing happened. So before I begin this part, I want to say thank you to everybody who remembered where I'm from, because it's really something to remember something so specific about someone. If you don't know, I am from Ruidoso, New Mexico. And if you don't know about Ruidoso, New Mexico, we have been in the news quite a bit lately. I actually live in Albuquerque now, but I grew up in Ruidoso. I went from kindergarten to graduation there, and I left there when I was 26 years old. So Ruidoso holds a very special place in my heart. And not only that, probably 90% of the people I know in person, who I call friends, who are my nearest and dearest and family, live in Ruidoso. So on June 17th, I woke up that morning and I checked the weather. It's something I do every morning. And I noticed that we were under fire warnings for the state of New Mexico because the temperatures were going to be excessively high and the winds were going to be excessively high. And in New Mexico, that's something we dread because the minute the temperatures go that high and the wind gets bad, it will start fires and it can go very rapidly out of control. So, a little while later, I noticed there was a fire in Lincoln County, which Ruidoso is in Lincoln County. And then another fire popped up, and then another fire popped up. And they were small fires, and they were under observance. Somebody was observing them. Some of them were already being put out. I'm not really sure 100% on all the details on that. But a little while later, I get a message from my mom, and she said, I was in town, and I'm going to go back to the house because there's a fire. And she sent me a photo of the smoke. And I knew right away by the look of the smoke that this fire was burning hot and burning fast. So it went from this small start point to about 200 acres. That's when my mom texted me. And then I was on the phone with a friend who she used to live across the street from me when I was a child in the summertime, and we spent our summers together, and we were on the phone. She was going through something very traumatic, and we were talking, and I was kind of helping her through that. And I shouldn't have been doing this, but I kept checking Facebook to see how the fire was. And all of a sudden, I saw a warning from the Village of Ruidoso's Facebook page saying the entire city needs to evacuate. Go now. And it was in all caps, go now. And I can't even tell you how I felt in that moment to know that everybody I know was fleeing from this fire. I started checking with everybody, my dad and his wife, my aunt and uncle. I tried to get in touch with some friends, and I also was trying to get in touch with my mom. And, it was a lot of text messages. It was a lot of everybody saying this and that, and my dad and his wife were going. My aunt and uncle had already left, and my mom wasn't sure if it was close enough to her to worry about or not, so she was kind of on standby because she doesn't actually live in the Village of Ruidoso. So everything was up here, everything. So there's a live cam in downtown Ruidoso that faces the mountain. And I got on the live cam and started watching, and the flames were unbelievable. The mountain pretty much disappeared, and the flames were shooting thousands of feet up in the air. And I just knew that it was moving really fast, and it was hitting everything in its path. I spent a lot of time focusing on it and keeping abreast of the situation because as everybody I knew was fleeing, power went out, cell service went out, internet went out, people didn't know what was happening, and I was texting family members and friends, letting them know what I could see from up here in Albuquerque. And so the next 2 days were like that. It was really crazy. The next day, I had not heard from my mom. I did not know whether she had left or not. When I was finally able to get in touch with her, they were leaving. However, when cell service and internet service went out, they had no idea that the fire had exploded to the degree that it had. So they did not know how bad it was, and they spent the night. So she and her friend fled the next day to some friend's house in southwest New Mexico. And they had a nice place to stay for their evacuation. My father and his wife moved on to their second home in Texas. Fortunately, they have that. That was a great blessing. Unfortunately, my aunt and uncle lost their home of 36 years. And the minute that I heard that, I burst into tears because that house is full of memories for me because they lived there for 36 years. I remember when they moved into it. I remember when they moved to Ruidoso and how happy I was to have more family nearby. And the last time I was in Ruidoso, I stopped by and visited with them, and it just is heartbreaking that anybody I know lost their home, but family members lost their home. And they are very fragile right now, to be expected. They are very positive, and they know that they will rebuild and move on. And I feel grateful that they are that type of people, that they can feel that positive. So that gives me some peace. I know that there is no aspect of this that's going to be easy for them. So I, have just continued to send my prayers to them. One of my dearest and oldest friends, I couldn't get in touch with her at all. We actually listed her on the missing page because nobody had heard from her. And there was in the pages on Facebook for the fire, there was different pages set up for different reasons. And one of them was, have you seen or heard from this person? And we put that up, and finally the next morning, her cousin and I both got in touch with her and were able to find her. Her story of leaving the fire is one of nightmares. And everything around her property burned except for her home. And they left driving through flames, driving in thick, horrible smoke. And as she described it to me, I could hardly process or understand what I was witnessing. And all I could think was, no one should ever have to experience that level of fear or angst or, any of it. There was actually 2 fires burning, and they kind of made tongs around the village of Ruidoso. Together, the fires have taken 25,000 acres and 1,400 structures. 1,000 of those structures are believed to be homes. And the fires are out now. Unfortunately, what helped put them out was monsoon season arriving. Due to Hurricane Alberto, the offshoots of that storm started creating storms in New Mexico. And when really rapid thunderstorms develop in the mountains, it causes flash flooding. And one of the things in a burn zone that happens with flash flooding is that after it burns, the ground is somewhat like concrete. It becomes really hard and water cannot penetrate it. So water just shoots off of it. And as it's shooting off of it, it's grabbing all of the debris in its pathway from the fire. So New Mexico, we have flash flood warnings all the time, but all of my friends and family were arriving home to be sent back out of their homes immediately because of flash floods. And the flash floods were absolutely incredible. I don't think I have ever seen anything like it down there, and I have seen it wash out bridges and carry cars away. It can be really fast. It can be very dangerous because the water can be very deep and be moving really rapidly. And in this case, it was just all of that plus all of the debris from the fires. So I'm watching all of this from here, from Albuquerque, and there's nothing I can do. I can't race down there. I can't fix it. I can't help. I can't assist anyone. I can't even hug anyone and say, I'm sorry you're going through this. I have spent a lot of time, via text message, emails, phone calls, and so forth, connecting with everybody that I could and making sure everybody was okay. My gratitude through all of this has been huge because everybody I know made it out. Everybody was okay. I mean, we have lost a family home in our family, but it is a home, not the people in it. So that was something that I was incredibly grateful for, that everybody I know was safe and sound. Unfortunately, during the fire, there were 2 lives lost. I don't know either of these people. One of them was actually across the street from my friend's place, and so that's how close that was. But it's devastating, and I cannot tell you, when you grow up in a place as beautiful as I grew up, how much it becomes a part of you. And to watch this level of devastation and watch this level of pain in my friends and family has been heartbreaking. So that was basically my June in a nutshell. So wrapping it all up, I wanted to let you know that during all of this, I have been trying some products. I have tried a new hot tool that I'm going to do a video with and share that with you. I also tried the Viore shampoo and conditioner bars, so I'm going to do a first impressions review video on those. I also have a video in the works for another slower fashion video, and I have a couple of other videos that are more pertaining to silver hair care as per usual. I don't know when I'm going to be able to roll all those out and get back to my normal once a week routine. Hopefully that starts happening pretty soon. I'm hoping with the new physical therapist and her being closer to me and things going a little bit smoother, that all of that will be a little easier to deal with and I can start getting my routine back. Anyway, thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate it. I hope that you guys were all doing well out there. Thank you for hanging in there with me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so now because I would love to see you next time. Until then, shine on.